The president of Nicaragua announced that the country will no longer hold elections in an attempt to prevent the opposition from coming to power.
The president of Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega, has consolidated a governing agenda that permanently eliminates elections in the country, raising serious concerns throughout the Americas. Although Brazil has a different legal and electoral system, the possibility of constitutional adjustments that favor leaders remaining in power indefinitely worries experts and citizens. This measure represents not only the perpetuation of an authoritarian regime, but also an attempt to expand socialist influence in the region, creating a dangerous precedent for other nations. Ortega's decision reinforces the idea of lifelong power, where the state becomes hostage to the leader and the population loses any possibility of a democratic transfer of power. This scenario creates unease in neighboring countries, which are closely watching the developments of this dictatorial policy. The debate about how far a bid to stay in power can go is gaining strength, especially when we see that authoritarian regimes tend to seek legitimacy through populist rhetoric and decrees that weaken democratic institutions.
The government and the opposition in Nicaragua agreed on Monday to resume dialogue after an intense day of clashes, protests, and worsening of the crisis.
Nicaragua serves as an example of how manipulating the rules can leave a nation hostage to a single ruler. But are we about to see this happen in Brazil? Welcome to Vida No Quartel.
We are in Messiah. There's a hill, there are snipers up there, that's why we crouch down.
Shoot, he's going to shoot, hold on. He's going to shoot, don't move. Daniel Ortega has been the president of Nicaragua since 2007, completing 2 decades in charge of the country. This prolonged rule has turned the population into hostages of a system that allows neither social mobility nor political freedom. Without fair elections, new leaders can't emerge and society loses its voice in shaping the future. The result is a demotivated people without prospects and increasingly dependent on the decisions of a centralizing regime. Remaining in power is sustained by a state apparatus that represses any attempt at opposition. Nicaragua ranks 3rd among the poorest countries in the Americas, behind only Haiti and Honduras. This condition of poverty is worsened by a system of deep corruption, where the nation's wealth is diverted for the regime's own benefit. Ortega's government has not only failed to promote development, but has also consolidated practices that drain resources and prevent any economic progress. Ortega's government? The population deprived of opportunities faces extreme difficulties in accessing basic services and improving their quality of life. This reality reinforces the predatory nature of the regime, which tries to spread its tentacles to other countries. The São Paulo Forum, created by the Workers' Party together with Fidel Castro, was theoretically intended to debate social and economic policies. However, over the years, it turned into a center for coordinating total state intervention in people's lives. Socialism's project of lifelong rule found fertile ground there. In the countries where it was implemented, such as Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, the result was the destruction of democracy and the perpetuation of authoritarian regimes. This reality serves as a warning to other nations in the region, which, even though they are stable countries, may be facing a project of lifelong rule operating behind the scenes. Just like the Castro family in Cuba and Chavismo in Venezuela, the project of permanent rule is a trademark of these regimes. The destruction of institutions and the suppression of the opposition are common practices that ensure leaders remain in power for decades. The case of Venezuela with Nicolás Maduro rigging elections and banning opponents from taking office is a clear example of this dynamic.
In the 21st century, it depends on our victory. July 28th. If you don't want Venezuela to fall into a bloodbath, into a fratricidal civil war caused by the fascists,
this invasion, sister Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. 300 planes flew over, 150 helicopters, the weaponry they had there.
Nicaragua is following the same path, consolidating a closed and oppressive system. The complicity of military commanders is another factor that sustains the regime. Benefiting from the dictatorial structure, they ensure internal repression and prevent any attempt at popular uprising. Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba have become chaotic countries, plunged into alarming financial and social crises. A large part of the population has no access to food, electricity, or basic services, living in precarious conditions.
No one gets used to that. I live on the 17th floor of this building, and it's pretty hard to go out, come back, and know that we have to, or that I have to climb 17 floors, and when I get there, there's no water because there hasn't been electricity all day. I mean, it's pretty hard, but also if you go up carrying groceries with what you need to cook, what you need to eat, it's also really hard, believe me.
This situation is a direct result of the alliance between authoritarian leaders and military forces, who benefit from oppressing the people. In Brazil, there have been socialist organizations that carried out violent actions, such as bank robberies and kidnappings of diplomats, with the stated goal of establishing a socialist regime.
Part of the rise of the left to power in Latin America is due to the existence of this thing called the Sao Paulo Forum. It was here.
And we owe a lot to our Cuban comrades.
Statements from party leaders such as José Dirceu reinforce the idea that the governing agenda aims to protect the party, not the country.
It's a fundamental historical difference, so we have to be clear that the political project is the main thing. If the political project is the main thing, then the main thing is to take care of the PT, because without Lula, the anchor of the fundamental instrument is the Workers' Party. Lula will be present, he will be a national and international leader, a socio-political force, a leading force within the party, but Lula is not the city councilors.
This kind of discourse shows how the logic of power can override the national interest. The experience of Nicaragua shows that, once consolidated, an authoritarian regime hardly allows room for internal changes. The population is forced to seek external alternatives or migrate to other regions in order to survive. The Nicaraguan armed forces have about 12,000 active military personnel and 8,000 in the reserves. Although they do not represent a significant offensive force against external threats, they are sufficient to keep the people under absolute control. This military apparatus guarantees the perpetuation of Ortega's regime and prevents any attempt at a popular revolution. The repression is constant and effective, making it almost impossible to organize internal resistance movements. The population, disarmed and weakened, cannot find ways to confront the established power. In this context, the expectation grows that outside intervention might occur to save the Nicaraguan and Cuban people. The capture of Nicolás Maduro by Donald Trump's government was seen as an example of how international pressure can weaken authoritarian regimes. Many believe that similar measures could be applied to Nicaragua, preventing the system of lifelong rule from expanding even further across the continent, including to Brazil. The fight against oppressive regimes thus becomes a shared responsibility among nations that defend democracy and freedom. Leave a comment below if you believe that a project for permanent power might be underway in Brazil. Here at Vida No Cuartel, you stay up to date with everything happening in the military world. Leave your like, subscribe, and watch one of the videos that's appearing on your screen. Forward fighters, see you next time.